Okay, so if you're a modeler guy, is this the part of the rig that's missing? Is the sort of post mic, post IR, can you kind of benefit from the flavor, the feel, the harmonics, the saturation of one of these units,
Yes.
I think that's a real question. Like a lot of people aren't asking. We don't have this stuff modeled, in the Helix, in all of that stuff.
Yeah. So this is like the UA Lion.
Yeah.
And this has everything up until the preamp.
Yeah. We've got the mics going out, and a lot of times this is the part of recorded guitar that it's not really in the conversation right now. So imagine we want to have our tone and we want something to just give us a little more of that signature, feel. Is that a thing people with modelers should be doing? Let's find out. Maybe.
API.
Okay. Okay, favorites?
Man, that's the thing is, what am I recording?
Well, I know, and it's but if you were taking just your rig here, which we've got a Ruby, digital enough, right? You've got a bunch of analog pedals, right? But HX Stomp, Ruby, this could be anything, a Helix, a Kemper.
Yeah.
What would be your always on? Maybe I like the sound of this. Is there anything there? I'll tell you, for me, it was the tube one. What's that called?
This one? Yeah. The Retro.
The Retro.
Yeah.
Now, how did that feel to play? It sounded squishy.
I mean, they all kind of have a little sag and like a a chunk to them or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that one for sure. That's when I think you asked, does that feel squishy afterwards? I was like, oh, for sure it does.
And that maybe maybe I'd run it a little lighter. I'd kind of dial it in for a little bit of like almost not there.
Yeah, because when you played, we were halfway on the gain.
Yeah,
which is getting edge of breakup. So you can get this to clean up more.
Can we hear that one a little more? Could you pull that one down? Because that was my favorite. What was your favorite, Suze?
I kind of looked over when I was feeling good about it, and I think it was the one before it. I think it was the Rupert Neve,
So let's hear this tube one. Maybe we back off the gain a little bit. And what was your favorite, Kevin?
I'm an API guy.
Yeah.
I've done this test over and over again.
Right. Okay, so let's see. I want to hear those three. Let's try. So the tube one, then we'll go 511, the Retro 511, and then to the 512.
So which one's this?
So we're on the tube, the Retro.
And we pulled it back a little bit.
So this is on the cleaner side.
Right. Yeah.
And go to your favorite, the 511.
Yeah, let's hear that 511. I mean, that sounds good to me. I could tell it. Feel wise, how did that Retro feel right there at that gain level?
Yeah. Squishy. Yeah.
So we're on the 511. This to me is more modern sounding.
Sure.
So it'll be a little tighter, full frequency on everything. The other thing too is I'll take off the silk circuit, which is adding a lot of goose to it.
There's a lot of different. I'm sure we're going to hear it even more in playback, but just in this room, there's a lot of difference there. Their characters are both like very evident.
Oh
but
yeah.
I kind of preferred with the silk myself.
I did too.
Yeah.
And I preferred that with the silk to the first one.
And that's what the 511 does is I would probably run the silk on a guitar track, and I would probably not on maybe a really clean vocal track or something. So this is, you can use this for a lot of different.
Because that's the do-all kind of design.
Right.
Yeah. Now let's hear that API, because this is a classic. You know, to me, this is the hot sound. You describe this as the American.
This is the American quick transient, no input transformer. It's hitting like this. And for me, I like how it feels under my fingers. It's all about feel a lot of the times.
I mean, I dig that.
The differences are subtle, but to me, from where I'm sat through studio monitors over there, but I think I like that one the least. And then that one that you like. And then I still like that Rupert Neve design.
Keep playing on the API. Let me change the gain structure on it.
Yeah.
It felt a little darker, less shimmery to me, which I liked on the 511. Is that what it's called?
Right,
okay.
yeah. Especially with the breath control.
My ear,
I felt like there was
gravitate towards that. It's almost like changing IRs, you know?
It is.
So that's like getting into the red, and then we can get it up way hot too, and like clip it too.
Yeah,
so
and
it's like
clipping's coming from the API,
Yeah, and that's such a sound too. So it's like finding that sweet spot. And we're not clipping the interface or anything. That's only preamp gain, because I have the trim pulled way back.
And that's too, like, that reminds me of the sound of a lot of records like that saturated.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I go like, oh yeah, I would love a rhythm guitar like Phoenix, has that sound, it's just and it has that like that kind of thing. That's what it reminds me of instantly. Or I go, oh, this sounds like, that's what a rhythm guitar track would sound like on a record.
And what I keep hearing is like, I'm not used to these types of sounds just from modelers.
Yeah.
And so it is adding something that is like we hear on records, but isn't available on what we currently have.
Yeah.
Which I don't like you, Kevin, because I don't have any more money to spend on any more gear. Well, and now you've come over with this.
And this stuff is dangerous.
Yeah.
Guitar players are in the shallow end of the pool when it comes to the cost of this gear.
That is so true.
This stuff gets insane quickly.
Well, that's why JHS made the color box.
Yes.
The color box is a 1073.
Oh,
that's what the color box is. It has EQ, like it added some things, but it's a 1073 in a pedal.
How do you like that pedal, or I guess preamp in this context?
It's amazing, and that's why you see so many like people that run direct rigs that are like acoustic or bass, and they want to take the sound of a studio sound live.
Yeah.
That's why the color box, like people use the JHS color box. It's on so many bass player pedal boards.
Wow.
It's like you hear the bass sounds on the Colony House record, and it's that. And their live rig, they throw a color box down to give you that 1073 sound live.
And then and you go here, and then you the next thing is like, well, should I run a little compression at the end of my guitar chain? Like, especially if I got the mod, that would be more difficult to do when I'm running an amp. But now that I'm putting the amp on the board, do I use a little post amp compression? We've talked about this a lot in the Kemper, in the Helix. I've got a whole video on the Kemper that says everything I know about the Kemper and compression. And it's just about like using the compressor all over the place and what you're trying to do with it.
Right.
And it really is everything I can achieve.
That's what Universal Audio did in the pedal form. Is they have these pedals, and then they have the one that's called the Max, and it's stereo in and out compression meant for pedal boards, where you can run studio compression on the pedal board in stereo on the back end.
Like after,
but our brain's not there, right? Like it feels like it goes, well, this will replace my my Armstrong orange squeeze style, compressor. It can, right. This will go where my MXR goes. The sort of the polish, of the compression at the end of the signal. Yeah, won't that mess up my dynamic range? Won't I? How will I get edge of breakup tones?
All right, so I have a question. It's to you, Kevin, but it's also to you, HW, about I guess in a studio or making profiles, right?
Sure.
So like what we're doing here is we're playing. Okay, maybe not here, but if we were playing a Kemper, we would be playing the sound of a mic through a preamp that's here, right? And so
potentially, you don't have to make them that way.
Okay, so say you profiled something with a 1073, and you're going, "Oh, I got a 1073," and I said, "Well, I already have that on my signal chain." Mm-hmm. Now we have two. Yep. Is it just like 3 would be better or 4? You know what I mean? Like we're already hearing the preamp, and so you're saying, "No, you got to do it again after the Kemper, out of the Kemper into this." Well, there's already one there, so now there's two 1073s.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
It's like having a tube amp again in the room.
Okay.
It's like when you play it, you have the feel of it. Mm-hmm. Where in my experience, when you bake that into a capture on the neural or the thing on the it becomes part of the sound and less of the feel.
Okay.
That's the difference to me.
Okay, so it becomes like a sum of its parts when it's the profile.
Right.
It's in there somewhere, but this is really clear what this is doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I heard you say, but okay, so like in the studio,
I would say so responding to that, I would say like I know Michael Britt is not a fan of preamps on his profiles.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he's using a mixer to mix together mic signals that are direct mic signals and balance them out. So the idea there being we're not imparting any more sound.
Gotcha. Okay.
But Michael is a successful recording guitar player.
Sure.
He has what he likes to record with.
Right.
And they've made a lot of records. But to him, it's like, but that's not really part of my guitar rig and he told me one time, because every board has a preamp that I go to. So his thinking is like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Even when I'm playing live, whether they're running plugins or wherever they're playing, they've got a pre there. So he's not trying to mess with it. At least that was, conversation I've had with him.
Yeah.
And that's one way to think about it. And I think there are several people who do it that way. I think Rebé's stuff was like, he did it finished. Like, record this. And I think he put some compression on the end and all that stuff. To me, I would go like this. If you're doing tracks remotely, like I'm thinking, how do you make a record today? Mm-hmm. Kevin's made more records than me, for sure.
In the last 3 months. I'm guessing. Yeah.
But if you're there, to me it goes like, if I make the tracks, the producer just gets those remote guitar tracks that I'm sending in, and I've never had anyone say, by the way, what'd you use? The track is just what it is. And then he's going to do something with it. And I would bet you $1 million you will not find a producer who does nothing to one of the tracks. You got to do something.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's psychological. You can't do nothing to it. There's always something you're going to want. Even if it was perfect. Even if in another world it was what you would have made it into.
Yeah.
So
you got to work on it.
So we probably are hearing a lot of this stacking anyway.